So welcome to the Let's Talk AppSecOps holiday special and our first LinkedIn Live event. I'm Mark Lambert. I'm the Vice President of Products here at ArmorCode, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Luis Guzman. Luis, how are you doing, man?
Excellent. Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too. Happy holidays. So we're at the end of 2022 and we've all kind of survived. That's a sigh of relief compared to this time last year. This is a great time to reflect about what we've experienced this year. There's an obvious thing that we'll see how often we talk about it today. But then also look at how we're going to plan going into next year. We've got a great lineup of guests, dial-in speakers to our radio show. So we are really interested to hear their predictions, their experiences this year. And with that being said, let's kick it off. Let's bring in Brian. So this is Brian from, where's Brian's based out of? I have it over here somewhere. Here we go, Charlotte, North Carolina. Hey, how are we doing, Brian? Can you hear us? I think you might be on mute.
Hold on here. Let me get everything turned down here. There we go.
No worries.
All right, there we go. Yeah.
There you go. Good to see you, man. How you doing?
I'm well.
Good.
Mark.
Getting ready for the holidays?
Yeah, I'm already over with my parents in the mountains of South Carolina. So that's why the background's a little different. Let me get this teddy bear out of the background here. So
no, we're showing you softer side. It's great.
Yeah.
We love it. We love it.
That's actually my brother's. I think from like 20 years ago. It's probably worth some money.
Probably more to him than anybody else.
That's true. That Mark. I like yours. Yours is a nice festive.
It's how I roll. So we did the product webinar at the end of it was actually right at the beginning of the month, I think, and I was wearing this horrific Santa shirt. So for the product webinar. So
I'm impressed, Mark. I'm impressed.
Thank you. So anyway, welcome to the show. Just as I opened it earlier, we're talking about things that we've experienced this year, reflect a little bit on this year, but also looking forward to next year. What are the things for you that you see in the industry, or even the things that you're doing there at JCI? What are you thinking forward to next year? What's your big challenges going to be as we get into 2023?
No, I agree. We're excited. I think we've kind of reached a point, certainly at Johnson Controls, where we have a very capable set of features deployed, or I shouldn't say scanning capabilities deployed in our product kind of development process, right? So we've got a lot of really good purpose-built scanning tools that our teams are really starting to leverage. What we're most excited about is, in particularly how ArmorCode plays in that strategy, is how we are going to take all that really relevant data and then be able to synthesize it into a crisp, clean picture of our security posture. And I even told our boss the other day, I said, I've been doing this at Johnson Controls about 3 years. I think this is finally the culmination of 3 years worth of hard work. Is our, in ArmorCode, is that, we built this great, if you want to call it a wedding cake, man, and now we're actually putting the icing on it. And you guys are this particular aggregation of data into a single tool is kind of like we're putting the topper on the cake. Yeah. So I'm real excited, to be able to finish this process up in the coming year.
Yeah. So really kind of getting that single view and single workflow in place across all of these different tools. In fact, that's an interesting thing, because that's, one of the trends that I've seen this year is this culmination of just infrastructure and application security coming together. Not just cloud, but like infrastructure beyond cloud. Everybody talks about cloud all the time, but it's a hybrid world, right? And you guys really embody that way through our conversations.
No, yes. I mean, cloud security is important, and don't get me wrong. I mean, that's really critical to us. But you're right. I was just on with one of our customers in London, and the place where we play in space in this buildings, it's very much the cyber physical, right? So we've got lots of endpoint devices that we need to write code for and secure. But then you're absolutely right, Mark. It's the combination of those cyber physical. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
All right, hold on here. I apologize.
No worries. That's what live call-ins
That's
is.
what live's all about. Teddy bears in the background and microphones and headsets.
My headset just died. I don't know if we can catch. Let me start that again so we can make sure that makes sense. But what I wanted to really share was because of the cyber physical experience that we have with our products, so many of our endpoints are in our customer environments, but in order to get the digital value, they have to be cloud connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with what we're able to do now is be able to look across that entire spectrum of cloud to the edge to the gateway across all three components and be able to get a holistic view of the risk. And we haven't really had that capability in the past.
Yeah. Well, we're very excited to be working together. We're very excited to walk on that journey with you. And, I thank you for coming in. Thank you for giving us this little bit of time while you're at your parents' house. We really appreciate it. And we will see you in the new year, my friend.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Mark. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Thank you, friend.
Thanks,
Take care.
Brian. Bye.
So, and I think, Luce, that's kind of like a common thread that we see, right? Is like organizations trying to bring these things together because the world is a lot more complicated, right? We've got infrastructure, application security. We've also got SBOM as well. So let's bring in our next guest, Matt Rose from Reversing Labs. So, Matt is very well known in the industry as the reversing glass guy, right? So if you remember those, you'll recognize Matt as soon as he comes on camera. He's a very distinctive look. And hey, there he is. How are we doing, Matt?
Good. How you doing, Mark?
Good. So we were just talking about with our previous guest about this intersection of application security, infrastructure, not just cloud, but hybrid worlds. And this is complexity, right? And SBOM is part of that. And that's obviously an area where you're very active at the moment. So what are you seeing today, and what do you foresee tomorrow as we go into 2023?
Absolutely. So, the topic around SBOM, people immediately gravitate towards software composition analysis and SCA. They think, oh, SBOMs are created by SCA. But really, an SBOM just of the open source package is not a complete SBOM. You need an SBOM of all the, ins and outs, all the pieces of the puzzle associated with your piece of software. So if you're just looking at the open source packages and inheritance of other open source packages, you're going to miss things. So talking about the, convergence of many different, pieces of technology, software supply chain security, I think, is a huge aspect because it's not just about the SBOM for the open source, it's the SBOM of that deployable package, whether it's a WAR file, DLL, ISO, whatever that is, and really understanding that kind of ecosystem. And is there malware? Are there questionable behaviors? Are there things that you don't inspect in that deployable artifact? You're going to potentially be the next SolarWinds.
Yeah. And the thing that really interested me from our conversation just the other week was this. Yeah, you're scanning your open source, right? You're looking at the dependencies you know about, but how do you know the thing you're producing at the end of the pipeline is the thing that you built and somebody didn't compromise and inject something at the end? And I think that really stuck with me since that conversation of really kind of like there's an ultimate validation of the quality of that pipeline.
Absolutely, and I was actually just quoted an article last week. I think it was CSO produces, thoughts going into 2023. And the biggest thing that I wanted to say is, the term shift left, I personally think is dead. If you only look for things on the left, and really in your DevOps ecosystem, there really isn't a left. There's something happening at every step of that infinity loop bow tie. And if you only look for risk on the left, you're going to find risk on the left, even if it's a STLC type of presentation where it has a beginning and an end. If you're only looking on the left, what about on the right, that deployable artifact? What is in there? Truly, what does that look like? Because that's what people are going to use. That's what hackers are going to attack, is the deployable artifact. Maybe they could. I'm not saying that would never happen inside your CI/CD process. That definitely is a source of risk. But the thing that they're, open to attack is that running application in production.
Yeah. And I think the really kind of, this is a much longer conversation. And you and I are going to do a session on this next year in season 2 of Let's Talk about AppSecOps. But, it's this concept of software supply chain kind of is very funkily defined. Some people just think only SBOM. Some people think only CI/CD posture. Some people just think open source. And I think we need to take a moment and unravel that. And I think that's a great topic for when we sync up in the new year.
Yeah, I think supply chain software, okay, software, make sure that's secure. And yes, that is one use case, and it's an important use case. Homegrown applications, they're just as susceptible as a third-party package issues around supply chain, whether that's open source, whether that's behaviors that it's not supposed to do, whether that's malware or the the breadcrumb and then was removed from the equation. So thinking about that, that is a huge problem. And just a couple minutes here on your webinar.
Yeah, we're losing the audio a bit here, Matt. So I don't, but don't worry. We'll continue this conversation in January. We'll be connecting on a subsequent show to go into more detail. So thanks very much for joining. Have a great holiday, and we will see you in the new year. And stay warm. I can't remember where you are, but I remember you're somewhere cold back east, right?
No, North Carolina, so it's not that bad.
Oh, it's not that bad. Yeah, it's not that bad. All right, well, take care. Have a great holiday, and we'll talk in the new year. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
All right, cool. Well, I think, SBOM software supply chain is going to be one of those things that we're going to see next year as well, along with this combination.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. Let's bring in, somebody who's living with these challenges every day. Let's bring in 𝗙𝗪, who is the CISO from SnapDocs. Al, are you there? Can you hear me?
I am here. Hey, how you doing, everyone?
Hey, how's it going?
Fantastic. Great to see you, and thank you, and welcome to Let's Talk AppSecOps. We're coming to the end of the year. You've had a difficult year, right? You've got a lot of things coming at you. You're looking forward to next year. There's big economic changes that are undergoing, let alone that we know who knows what's going to come. What are you looking at today as you reflect on the year, and as you plan going into next year? What are the main things that you're thinking about and you're concerned as a CISO for a financial institution?
Yeah, so we always have needs, right, for different things. We try to improve our security postures, our security programs, compliance privacy programs for those that own privacy as well. And I'll tell you, this year has been dizzying from the perspective of new security technologies coming onto the market.
Yeah.
And I tell you this, some probably know, part of a CISO Angel Syndicate, and we see a lot of technology come through, and there are so many solutions out there, a lot of point solutions, but we're also seeing a little bit of overlap, actually quite a bit of overlap, and that's what's making it a little bit difficult for us to navigate this landscape, because we have certain needs and we identify a potential partner, and then as CISOs, I mean, not as investors. And soon enough, you find out that, oh, they also do some of these other things that we already have capabilities for, and maybe it's not working as well. So let's take a bit more closer look at this new tech and see how that plays out. And then you're looking at something else, and you find that there's overlap between that and this one. And then you're like, oh, your head starts spinning, and you're like, what do I do, right? So that's kind of what we felt as, not just CISOs, but also as potential investors. It's just difficult. It's just been difficult to navigate this year, put it that way.
Yeah. There's certainly been, at ArmorCode, we see it as well, right? I've been in the AppSec space for almost 20 years. Luis, you've been, similar time frame, but from an infrastructure perspective mostly, and almost every month I'm hearing about another security tool that, we have integrations with now. It's like over 150 different security tools. And these aren't arbitrary ones we do the integrations with. These are ones that people ask for. It's a highly disparate ecosystem, and kind of like bringing that together and understanding that overlap. If I've got a finding that's coming from, one tool that's giving me, let's say they're branded as a source composition analysis, and I've got another tool that brands itself slightly different, but it's reporting the same thing. How do I kind of sift through that noise? So is that something that you see that you're going to have to address next year, or is that kind of more of a reflection on this last year?
It's a reflection of this year is going to pass. But I think what's going to happen is naturally, I think the market's going to take care of itself, honestly. We've seen this before. especially in down markets, there's a lot of opportunity to take market share from your competitors. And those companies, those startups that are smart and forward thinking, they're going to start to expand their capabilities significantly. They're going to start to invest more in R&D and go to market and trying to gain market share. And so naturally what's going to happen is they're going to have to provide more capabilities and more features to CISO. So probably going a little bit more wider than going deep. And then so there's just going to be a natural pressure coming from the CISO, from the security community and the industry to start doing that. And that'll help us move away from these point solutions and start to look at things more from a platform play again.
Yeah.
Right. So there's all the cycle that happens all the time. You start looking at point solutions for a few years, and then you buy a bunch of things, and then you start seeing conversions for different reasons. In this case, it's probably going to be the market pressure, the market downturn. People want to, CISOs want to, spend their money wisely, and they want their dollars to go further. Yeah. And so that's what's going to happen naturally. I think there'll probably be some acquisitions, some M&A. It's probably going to be some, very close partnerships. Some unfortunately will just go away, some startups. But you'll see those that are vibrant and forward thinking emerge as the top platform plays and offer more solutions and more capabilities. And product security, application security is keen for that, I think.
Yeah, it's going to continue to be a priority, but I think we're going to see that market consolidation over the next.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I say this because obviously I talked to a lot of CISOs, a lot of my colleagues and peers, and we're seeing the same thing. I just had a call with a few yesterday and some VCs, and they're seeing the same exact thing I'm seeing. So it's just validation that this is what's going to happen going forward.
Great. Well, Al, thank you very much for the time today. We really appreciate you coming in and sharing your insights as well. And happy holidays. Good luck for next year, and we'll be talking again next year very soon. So yeah, Thank you very much. Enjoy the holiday weekend.
We'll do. You too. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Al.
All right. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Bye.
Yeah, so I think this tool consolidation thing, Luis, is another thing that we're beginning to see, right? And I think it's a mixture of this platform play, but it's also a mixture of how can I use open source, how can I get value from the tools that I'm using, and how can we kind of make the tools somewhat interchangeable.
It's going to be a huge consolidation. I see it.
It's going to be. I mean, we've already seen a lot of, change in the market, right? Organizations like Sneak and the like, and, just laying off, but then also doubling down in certain areas. So, yeah, anyway, let's bring in our next guest. So we've got Brooke Schofield. How are we doing, Brooke? Are you there? Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed, I can. And
Fantastic.
thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, good.
And I hope you're all well. Oh, you've got the Christmas sweater on. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes, I like to rock the Christmas sweater vest. Yes, so and it does have a Santa Claus down here, but I have to stand up.
Oh, you got everything: reindeer, the pine trees, Santa, red, black, green, little gold. Yeah, you're really rocking it.
I try to cover all my my seasonal touch points. The kids love it, that's for sure. So yeah, so welcome to the show. And as we're talking about today, we're talking about the reflection for this last year. What have we seen? What have we learned? And as we go into next year, which is going to be a turbulent year for the markets, just in the economy as a whole, we can all foresee that it's already happening, and it's quite probably going to happen even worse in January is the general feeling. What do you see as the trends that are going to be the most important trends as we move into next year, and as you reflect on this year?
Well, I think AppSec budgets are going to shrink.
Yeah.
We've already seen some layoffs, and we've seen layoffs at vendors, which is a real key barometer here, that they're not getting the sales that they can support, and often in developer layoffs, which means they're not going to be writing new features. And that's all really, really important for us to realize. We're struggling with AppSec. I'm sorry, professionals, I know you do your best, but we're all struggling. It's not easy, and there are a bunch of computer science reasons why it's not easy. So you can look at my talks or whatever to look at that, but let's not talk about that. But nevertheless, it's not easy, and I think it's going to be constrained to boot. which always makes it difficult. So if you were working, let's say, on a 3-person team, maybe you're suddenly a 1-person team, which is going to be challenging. And the other thing that I'm hoping is that we'll finally, okay, so that's one trend. That's the economic piece of this, as you brought up. And it's really important for us to realize we're going to be constrained, which means consultants are going to be all climbing over each other to tell you how perfectly they can make your system. Don't believe a word of it, because no system is perfect. We all know that. To talk to the consultant who says, yeah, I think we can do some improvements here and here and here. That's more realistic. Those are some of the things we're going to be dealing with economically, is just reduction for a while. And probably the other thing is, if you've got a security company, probably this year is not the year you're going to be acquired for a 17 times multiple. That was the multiple that's been going for the last few years, which is very nice. Don't get me wrong. I've got several friends who've done very nicely in the last few years, building up something really cool and then able to acquire it and collect their equity. But I don't think we're going to see a lot of that either. So, if you've got a running business and you're a vendor, time to keep it running somehow, including in this space. Okay, having said that, I don't think our need for AppSec is going anywhere anytime soon. We're in the middle of a cyber war. Now, some people don't agree with me about that, but I've said we've been in the middle of a cyber war, at least a low-level one, for about 15 years, maybe a little longer now, 17 years. I'm thinking 15 at least. And so that's not going anywhere, and probably going to keep going, which means if you fall afoul of nation state actions, and there's a bunch of those to think about, not all of them are, I want to take your data or I want to close you down. Some of them are just, hey, you've got some money we could use, repurpose for something else too. Some of the ransomware stuff is either state sanctioned or state allowed. And there's a difference there, of course. And so, we're going to see that continue. And there's collateral, any of us could be collateral damage. I think we're going to see that. And at the same time, the riches from just being a cyber criminal, they haven't gone anywhere either.
Yeah.
And so, go, please.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. It's like we're going to be in this interesting time for the next 6-12 months where we'll have constraining budgets all around, right? I think your reference, we were just talking about earlier before you came in about the layoffs that we'd seen in the industry. And a lot of that was organizations that had overexpanded, right? And now there's a correction happening, but we're going to see that within organizations themselves. So you're going to see constrained internal budgets because just that's the reality of how this works. So you need to go figure out how to make the teams as efficient and productive as possible. Tool optimization, process optimization, workflow automation, all of these things are what you're going to need to accelerate that. So I think that's a key takeaway for us today, is to say, look, optimizing the process, optimizing your team, automation, I think, is going to be a key element to that. So, yeah.
And I absolutely agree. And more can be automated, but not everything. So when some pundit gets up on the stage and looks at you and says, you can just automate all your security, know that they don't know what's involved in software security. Or
you
they're
can
lying.
automate the mundane manual stuff, but the stuff that requires
absolutely
and
still so much more.
Yeah.
Take threat modeling, which of course most people who know me know that's one of my specialties, or something I'm very interested in. I've studied and talk about, teach, whatever, and do. And there, the automation tooling has improved remarkably. There is no reason, unless you just enjoy it, for you to be looking at if you're a security person, looking at the developers you work with and say, oh, you got to do something about your cross-site scripting. That's in a tool and has been for years. Things that do like mapping of a cloud tenancy and then take that mapping and put it into a threat modeling tool, that area has fabulously grown. It's not complete. Again, once you get the map, it'll be in EC2 instances, just to talk AWS. And I don't want to prefer any particular vendor, cloud vendor over another. We all know who the majors are, but just to grab something, it's going to say that. It's not going to say, this is my special microservice that does XYZ. You've got to go in there and say, this is my special microservice that does what I need it to do, and map that stuff out. But you'll have the flows all written, and it will be actually what you have, as opposed to what the architect drew 7 months ago, hoping that that's what you would build. So that area has really moved a lot in the last 2 years or so, and take advantage of it. All of that, you've got all this great automation that's happening in this very manual space, and we should be using it. And by the way, at least both of the major threat modeling tools, and I don't publicly take a stand for one or the other, and they're both friends of mine, so I'm going to stay neutral there publicly. And both of them have community versions, so there's no reason you can't be starting using them right today, now.
I like the conversation here. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick this up next year. So we're going to do an episode on this in season 2 of Let's Talk AppSecOps, because I think the threat modeling specifically is not well understood within all development teams, and certainly it seems like this mountain. So let's put a pin in that, and we'll come back to that next year. So thank you very much for the time, Brooke. Really appreciate you coming in today. You take it, have a great holiday, and we'll talk in the new year.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and you take care. And as well, whatever holidays you celebrate or don't, may they be marvelous.
I second that. That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke.
Cheers.
So yeah, I think this is that we're having some great conversations today here, Lewis. I mean, you've got automation, optimizations. We've got threat modeling, which I know is one of those things that you and I have talked about before. And, I remember trying to explain threat modeling to somebody, and I wasn't really understanding threat modeling myself, but the development team I was working with really didn't understand it at all. They're like, this doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But so that's kind of like, I think one of those practices that a lot of organizations face challenges with. Well, let's get our next guest in. Hey, Jimmy Lee, how are you doing, sir? Can you hear me?
How's everybody doing here? Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. We can. Welcome to the show.
As Brooke said, that's an amazing, sweater vest you got there.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm very proud. My kids love it, and it's definitely the seasonal attire in my house.
That's awesome.
So Jimmy, I know you're kind of in stealth mode right now, so we want to talk about that. But you've previously been head of security applications at Facebook. What do you see? What have you seen this year? What are you predicting next year? What are the top trends that we need to be looking at?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll try to keep to our time here. I know we got a lot of eager speakers waiting.
Don't worry about time. It's live. No, it's live. Don't worry.
Awesome. So most recently, I've been doing a lot of advising work, kind of that virtual CTO, virtual CISO, kind of different virtual roles, helping out a lot of startups and some nonprofits, just trying to understand that broader market scheme, right? So understand that enterprise level, the humongous scale worldwide, got that piece down, but just trying to talk to some more people and get a better understanding. And overall, I think we have this better awareness and acceptance of the risk from both public and private sectors, specifically with our current presidential administration doing a lot in terms of publishing a lot of data and funding a lot of efforts in research and documentation and furthering on our protecting some of our most critical and sensitive areas in terms of our critical infrastructure and others, and specifically a lot of middle market and below businesses that don't have the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 bank accounts, to hire all of us to come in and build massive teams and solve problems and buy tons of products, right? With that, I also see, as Al and Brooke mentioned, that this shift to a down market, right? Where I think the competitive landscape is going to help, start to readjust some of the market offerings. I call it the kind of the found, build, pump, and dump approach to cyber startups, right? You know, it won't be nearly as easy as, you know, VCs, private equity investors. They're not going to buy it as quickly, right? And so I really believe that what's coming in 2020, and this is, of course, you know, I'm never afraid to share my personal opinion, and we'll debate it for fun. You know, it just gets me going. But I believe 2023 is going to be the year of context for cybersecurity. And I believe that context is the key that will unlock a culture of unity across the businesses between security and engineering. I've been saying for years, and I'm not sure if we've had a chance to talk recently, but I've been saying for years that I believe that cybersecurity is really just a manifestation of a weakness that we didn't understand when we originally built the infrastructure and the networks, right? We're always kind of focused on, you know, what we could do with the technologies, and we never were really looking at how it could be weaponized against us or weaponized against those that couldn't defend themselves well, right? So we built this domain, this education track. Now, when I came out of college, there's no such, I mean, they barely was computer science, right? And so it's just like, oh, go for electrical engineering, right? Computer science was kind of this kind of no man's land. It's just software. You need to know more. You need to know more about the hardware and the networks, right? And so there wasn't a cybersecurity program. Now there's cybersecurity programs, but that's just because we haven't had enough time to educate the new engineers, the new coders, right? Yeah. And for those that are reluctant, you know, I hate to use the phrase, you know, people and animals, but the old dogs that won't learn new tricks, right? They're going to retire out. And so in the next generation or two, it's just going to be engineering. Because there's going to be this expectation that you understand cybersecurity and networks and the likes. And so it's this context that we need. In this context, we need it within the tech stack. We need it within we need to be platform centric, but here's what's going to be the shift because of the down market. Yeah. So before it was all just assess all these new vendors and all these new startups and all these new cybersecurity companies that have new products and new ideas. I can't tell you how many dinners I've sat in. Hey, I love you all if you happen to be on the call, where they're just kind of fishing for a problem to go and, you know, and build a startup and, you know, do their found, build, pump and dump. Hey, I'm not knocking them, man. It was a good run, right? But now, with buyers having less money and as Brock spoke so eloquently, fewer staff. Yeah, it's going to be more about the buyers are going to say, hey, instead of just you sell me your platform, I'm building my own. Now I want to see if you can plug into my infrastructure, my platform, my way. They're going to, you know, reduce their staff a little bit and hire more experienced product managers that are going to start to architect out and architects that are going to build out, this is what this means for our company, for our business. Yeah, I think you touched on a whole bunch of things there. I mean, like that friction that you talk about between the security and the developers, and my degree was computer science, School of Engineering, so I did both. But I tell you, the only part that was security was encryption and network. That was it, right? We didn't talk about anything else. And so it's a relatively new field. So there's a lot of education that's still required, but that context of, hey, you need to fix this because this is important for these reasons really reduces that friction. And being able to have an environment where you can have a disparate ecosystem of different tools. I mean, I think there's going to be this balance between, I think some people are going to move to a platform play, some people are going to move to hey, I'm going to use more open source, right? And I'm going to use point tools from open source, and then I'm going to bring in a commercial tool to go deep in one area where I see more risk that the open source doesn't satisfy me enough, because OS does a pretty good job of giving that initial baseline, especially for those companies that don't have those big, deep budgets. Yeah, I completely agree. I think we can all agree, though, that a few point solutions brought together that works together with a common data structure is the makings of an excellent platform, right? Yeah. I definitely do definitely agree. And I think that, you know, it's time for us to start viewing security less as this separate practice and more as a part of engineering. And so as I've been kind of parroting for the last few years, that I believe that the office of the CIO and the office of the CISO, 2 or 3 generations from now, will all just be wrapped during this conversation of engineering, right? We need to unify and we need to stop trying to be so disparate, right? And so disconnected. And data privacy and cybersecurity is, kind of one and the same. Data privacy, if you think about it, and network security are not that much different from a thought procedural risk perspective, right?
Yeah.
And I think that as we start to grow up these engineers, these innovators, these creators of tomorrow, we need to give them, to your point, a more broad education, a more broad skill set, so that they understand that what they're building actually is going to connect into what somebody else is building. But these different career tracks and educational tracks with this down market, I really start to wonder when we're going to start to shrink the degrees and just make them more enriched, change the programs a bit.
Yeah, I think that we're already beginning to see a little bit of that in the market, as well as like people really bringing these two worlds so closely together that you'll have like, it's almost like the security champions is a kind of a component of that, where you have the security expertise in the teams, but kind of like bringing it under the same department as well. I think that's going to be a key element. Jimmy, thank you very much for your time. We really appreciate it. Have a great holiday, and look forward to seeing you at a Purple Book community event in the near future.
Absolutely. See you guys later. Happy holidays.
Thanks.
Take
Have a good
care.
one.
Yeah. All right. Our next guest requires no introduction to Luis and I. It's our ArmorCode cheerleader and CEO, the brains behind the operation. Nikhil, are you there?
Yes, hold on. I'm just trying to fix it.
You're gonna pop your camera on? Have you got your Christmas glasses?
Hold on. What the heck is happening? Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you.
hear you. We can't see you.
Okay, give me 1 second. I have a very special guest with me.
Oh, exciting.
This is this is
Santa Claus.
There you go. How did you know that? It's give me 1 second. Let me try to log out and log right back in. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. No problem.
We can bring you back.
I'll be right back.
Jeremy will let you back in when you're connected fully. So yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, I think Luis, we've had some great topics, I think, and they're very consistent with things that we've been hearing over the course of the year, right?
Mm-hmm. Everything we've been talking about independently from those conversations is really tying together in the holiday special, which we didn't plan. I mean, that would be like too much planning. But
we had a talk track just in case. But I think,
but the whole point of everybody having a very similar thread is huge, because that means that what you and I have been hearing with our ears to the railroad has been consistent. So that means that what we're going to see in 2023 is going to be very reflective to what we've been talking about. So go back and listen to the rest of the shows that we've recorded.
Yeah. We're wrapping season 1 with this episode, and as Luis said, we've done a whole bunch. So here we go.
Hey,
Mr. Bossman, how you doing?
Great. And I'm fortunate to have joined with me 𝗷𝗻𝗀𝗀𝗃, a good friend and a chief product security officer at Rivian.
Oh, one of my favorite vehicles. I love that truck, man. I love the camper piece that you pull out in the middle with the stove in it. It's like, I'm a big automotive. Nikhil knows I'm a big car guy. So yeah, I love your truck. I really do.
Thank you. It's a beautiful vehicle.
It is very beautiful, very beautiful indeed. Well, welcome to the show. So we're streaming live on LinkedIn. We're talking about kind of what we've seen this last year and what we're planning going into next year. A lot of great topics covering a whole variety of different areas. So David, I'll ask you first, since you're the special guest. And what have you seen this year? What are your kind of like main things that you're looking to do next year?
I think one of the key goals for next year, at least in my space, is really this aspect of having real monitoring and detection and removing as much noise as possible. I think we all have a bunch of tools, a bunch of solutions, a lot of processes, and we try to make all that work. But I always feel like we have tons of information and we just simply don't have the time to actually actionize this and operate on all that. So I think that the goal really for next year is removing the noise, reducing the noise, having true useful information, and that I can operate on that. And that's really like my main goal for next year. Well, and saving money, which I think my friend is going to help us to do that. But I think we're all also in that situation where we need to be very careful with our security dollars and understanding, okay, where do that money goes and what is the return on that investment? Yeah. So it's very important.
The ROI, the value, that, you know, I love what you're saying about you. Basically, you're saying focus, right? You know, I've got this mountain of stuff. And this, you know, I'm going to ask Nikhil to ask you to come on one of our future shows, because I want to dig into this more, because I feel that Rivian really has a very interesting challenge because of, you know, it's cars, right? So you have safety critical compliance requirements. You're highly connected, all of these things. It's a complex problem. So I really would love to dig into that more in one of our longer form shows as well. So yeah, I definitely invite you to come and join us.
That will be my pleasure.
Lovely. And then if I could also get a test drive, that would be also great. Maybe we could do it from Rivian's location. That would be fantastic.
We could record from there.
That would be great. I mean, that's
let me see what I can do.
Sounds great. Sounds
great.
Return
in a truck.
Yeah, we could record in the truck.
Yeah, I think we have a plan for a show. I like this. Jeremy, the producer, is making notes. So it's good. Excellent. So Nikhil, kind of like I know we talk about these things all the time, you know, and you've been hearing the talk track today. So, you know, what are your thoughts as you reflect on this last year and as you look into next year? What do you see for the industry? What do you see that for us at ArmorCode?
So, you know, I think so there's only one thing which goes there, which I always share internally as well as externally, right? It's customer, right? And you know, like while we are building a platform, while we have this, you know, all these cool solutions and, you know, we are blessed to have customers like, you know, our friend sitting right next to us. But the idea here is we are a problem solver, right? So we are not a AppSec company. We are not a product security company. We are a problem solver. And my focus, as always, will continue to stay to, you know, meet the customers, understand their pain points, and see how we can help them see. And as David mentioned, you know, ROI, save money, make it more secure. And yes, you know, I am an outlier here. You know, I don't have Rivian, I have a Tesla, but you know, but you know, with you, man. But
we won't talk brands. That's we don't want to upset David.
Yes, I will be, you know, changing loyalties hopefully soon, and you know, I will piggyback on taking the ride there. But the whole idea is that it's a very critical thing, and you know, I've known David for a long time, and you know, as we had these conversations that, you know, everything is mission critical. So yeah, coming back here, it's solving customer needs, which is, you know, ROI, make it more secure, make it more cost effective. So, and I know, like, you know, you have a whole set of other leaders there. We just wanted to, you know, not bump others there, but thanks for accommodating at a short notice. And, you know, we are really glad, and I'll definitely have, you know, talk to David, and let's have a session from Rivian trucks.
That's great.
Now we have it publicly on recorded, so you know, you can.
I don't know what you're talking about. I was never here.
Thank you guys. You enjoy the rest of your meeting, and we'll talk again soon, Nikhil. Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, Rivian's are really a great partner, and I do frankly love the style of that truck. It's beautiful. Okay, so let's get ready to introduce our next guest. And I know we've got a couple of folks who've been in the lobby for a while, so really appreciate you know, that hanging in there. We've got Andrew Gorecki from IBM. Can you hear us okay, Andrew?
And thank you for being patient with us, because you know, it's
this
a live
is how
show.
Live rolls. Are you there, Andrew? Can you hear us?
Yes, I am. Okay, there you go. It works.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Yeah, and thank you very much for that for the patience. I think we have another one or two, maybe I think another one person in the green room as well. So thank you very much for the time. So as you've been hearing, we've been talking about, hey, what have we seen last year? What do we expect to see next year? You actually did a recent podcast, or a Purple Book community meeting, which was, for those that don't know, it's a cybersecurity group for security leaders, by security leaders, and it was a great session. I thoroughly enjoyed that one. I don't get to join many because I'm busy with little kids, but that one was when I managed to join and I really enjoyed it. So tell us what you've seen this last year and what you're expecting to see going into next year.
Thank you, Mark. Good to see you, and good to see you, Luis, too. I'm going to start with doom and gloom.
Yes.
So unfortunately, based on what I've seen, based on the data we have on the industry, essentially, I think we are going to see ransomware to continue to be a major threat to organizations. I've read somewhere, I think it could have been LinkedIn, that ransomware is a way to pay down technical debt. And a lot of my customers still struggle with technical debt, outdated technologies that are dependent on, apps and so on. So I think we are going to see still ransomware, because ransomware attacks are really opportunistic attacks. It's very rare that a ransomware operator would target a specific organization. But also, the reason why I believe we are going to still continue to see ransomware is because now we are not dealing with a one actor, two actor, three actors. We are dealing with an ecosystem, as they described during the podcast. And ransomware operators, standardize the operations and create essentially a partner ecosystem, which means that there's a lower barrier for new entrants to enter the market, if I can call it a market. So unfortunately, we are going to see more ransomware. But on a positive note, as I mentioned during the podcast, we have a lot of threat intelligence about ransomware and how they operate. So we can leverage the threat intelligence to make informed and precise decisions in how you're going to invest into your security controls, instead of just throwing, all your money you have.
Yeah.
But moving into kind of something more positive, I think what we are going to see, well, what I've heard from the last 2 or 3 speakers is like focus, focus, focus. And I think what we are going to see next year, partly due to the economic downturn, but also, kind of tool and security fatigue, we are going to see tool consolidation. I think many of my clients say to me, I don't want to manage 57 tools. I want to have 2 or 3 platforms that essentially integrate various security tools and give me a single view into, security events, and I can correlate them, track them. So I don't want to, have 17 dashboards and 19 tools. So I think we are going to see consolidation of tooling, and I think that those organizations or those vendors who will be essentially have, the strongest position in the market will be those who are moving into kind of a platform type of delivery, not necessarily just like I was speaking. I was listening to some of the podcasts by Anton Chowaki, and he said, and sometimes he mentions, are you building a feature, or are you building actually a tool? So I think those organizations that build features will likely be acquired by other organizations, or they will essentially disappear. But also the third thing that I think is going to happen is it's really just the rapid adoption of cloud. This is already happening, so it's nothing new. But I think because tighter budget constraints, I think some organizations will accelerate their cloud adoption to save cost. And unfortunately, what we typically see with accelerated cloud adoption is that security gets behind, partly because traditional teams have still kind of on-prem thinking when it comes to security, and cloud requires really a shift mindset. But at the same time, I think there will be more awareness, how to secure the public cloud, and we already see some of the major vendors really heavily investing into capabilities for cloud security. So these are my 3 things for next year, next year.
Great. Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. And I think you make a really good point. I mean, cloud has been big, since we hit the pandemic. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm even referencing the pandemic again. But when we hit the pandemic, cloud just went into hyperspeed, right? And I think you're right, is that the economic, and looking for cost optimizations that we all know we can realize, but then you have the challenges of misconfigurations, the good and all of those other things. The good news is we've gone through a lot of that pain already, so we all understand the problems to solve. There's a lot of tooling out there that we can leverage. There's there's a lot of best practices in place. But I think you're right. I think we're going to see an increased adoption of cloud.
And I think cloud adoption is one of the in my view, is one of the best ways to kind of address technical debt by essentially re-architecting legacy applications, leveraging modern cloud native technologies. So you reduce your attack surface, but also you have less to manage, and hopefully you save some dollars on through OpEx.
Yeah. Spot on. Well, Andrew, thank you for your time today. And as I said, I really enjoyed the podcast, the session they did with PPC the other month, and Yeah, I think we should continue this discussion as well, because ransomware is one of those things that really, when you're thinking about application security, it's not just about the vulnerability, it's about who is actually leveraging that vulnerability, and the ransomware family, or the family of that attack. So I think we should peel that back in a subsequent podcast. So thank you for the time. Have a great holiday. We'll talk again in the new year.
Have a great holiday, everyone. Looking forward to
Thank you.
future collaboration. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Andrew. All right, we're gonna invite in our last guest caller for today, and then we're gonna bring it home. So 𝗙𝗺cie is the head of global application security at the Estée Lauder companies, and we're very pleasure to have him on the call. Hey, Les. Thank you for waiting. We know that we've run long today, but really we've been looking forward to bringing you in and having you bring us home today. So as we discussed before, what things have you seen this year? What do you see as the big things that we need to be thinking about going into next year?
Okay, actually, that's a lot. Let's put it. I'm going to try to think of different things, right? This year, my focus has been more from an AppSec space. I'm not taking away the people part of it, because that's always going to be sort of a challenge. And I think some of your guests may have spoken about it. I've not listened into everything, but I think that first of all, Dev, Ops, and Sec are going to be one. It's not going to be the separate kind of silos as we see it, because the generations, things are changing. At the same time, the concept of risk and toolings, and I'm bringing this in for various reasons. You can have a lot of events and CVEs or whatever we call it, but what are really the real risks? Not all of them are applicable. So when you do a scan and you get all these reports, it means nothing if it's not affecting the company, the value of things. And I think certain products are going to be better at focusing on areas, because otherwise, as you see, all these things, the breaches that have happened, they've been there for 250 days, and before people realized it didn't act a long time ago. So that's that part of it. There's another aspect that I was thinking, the social engineering part of it, which is the ransomware and all that, that's going to be here now, this year, and it's going to happen next year. And then some. So that means we need to get better at awareness, not just a tool is, a person, it's an old adage from Eitel.
Yeah.
A fool with a tool is still a fool, So it's basically, you need to be aware of certain things, right? So this year, in terms of AppSec, I've been focusing a little bit more, if only because my role has added another function like cryptography and all that stuff, besides the AppSec, right? So on APIs, because everyone talks about OWASP top 10, but there's OWASP top 10 APIs, but that's just the baseline. There's much more, because you can build things correctly, but still exploit in terms of different methods of attacking, like fraud and account takeovers and so on and so forth. So this was this year, and I don't think that thing will change, because by the time I joined, I heard this gentleman from Rivian, for example, just on me. And all these cars and gadgets that we have are all API driven. They're just API engines. Their whole economy is like literally API. So all you need to do is, if you've not patched, for example, you can just go in and get as much information as anything, because now, talking about something else, the IoT stuff, because everything's connected today. Today, our world is connected and things are happening at speed. So whether we talk about 5G or any other things, they're connected so you can get in. So that's the hacker mindset, right?
Yeah, I think you're spot on with that. I mean, API security has been growing in importance over the last 2 or 3 years. I remember in 2005, I gave a presentation at Java 1, if you remember that conference back in the day. And it was about how to do secure Java coding. And it was very much focused on the best practices from a JVM perspective. But for the most part, you had to get access to the JVM to exploit those things.
Yeah.
But my closing thing was actually about, hey, make sure you protect your web services. And if you remember SOAP from back in the day, right, we're still leveraging it mostly within the enterprise. But, that was actually had a framework in place to make sure that you had some security measures in there. REST and RESTful transit, it's like the biggest problem today from an API security perspective is an undocumented API. There was a recent, and to bring it home on the automotive, there was about, I want to say it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, an article where you could actually hack a car by making a call to a SiriusXM endpoint on that car using the VIN number. So you could, so it blew my mind, right? It was actually a podcast that we recorded with our friends at Grammatech, and Rivian, is a customer that we both know very well, and that problem of hacking cars has gone from the Prius one back in the early 2000s, where they actually took apart the car. Okay, great, you've managed to compromise the car, but you had to take it apart. The next one was the Jeep one, where they managed to get access to the Jeep by changing the firmware on the connected device. Okay, great, now it's actually worse because I'm disconnected, I'm on a laptop somewhere, but I still have to get access to the firmware. Now, because these API endpoints are just exposed, you can just get access and they're not documented. So
yeah, that's so true, because now, and plus, you're bringing in other devices into your environment, which are connected too. So there are hacks through Bluetooth and, all these protocols that you have. So that is that aspect, right? So what I see hopefully getting better, and I've spoken to, and I've been, lucky to meet some really crazy people, just like our community here in, our Purple Book, and that's why I'm wearing the Purple Book.
I saw that, yes.
I really had to, because, and thanks to 𝗙𝗪 and the entire team, all you guys, so anyway, leaving that aside, I'd be intrigued. There's so much more. Like I said, there's the people, there's the social engineering, which you need to get better. But I've been intrigued with this whole SBOM concept that goes beyond this SBOM, because an application is no more in just that one application. And that's why APIs are dangerous, right? It's microservices. It's all these other things. And then correlating that, because each of these microservices might be using open source. And then how do you validate that open source is correct? So there's been a number of companies and folks, communities that are growing, that are building this extension of cataloging microservices to libraries and finding that, because otherwise you get products that talk about this and SBOM related to that part, but it's still in silos.
They're linked. They're linked.
And you need to get a better way. And it should be easy, right? The ease of use is an important thing, right? And I think everyone of us knows, because otherwise you get if you tell developers to do something and, hey, now, document all your stuff, you'll find another way out of that. So you need to find a way that it's automated, that it's automatically happening. And then you have this catalog, which is more than just the regular assets. It's those assets that now have been expanded to all these little things like microservices, containers, and all those, and the CVEs related to those to impact risk.
And it's the APIs that the microservices are used that aren't in the source code that you're managing, but it's an API that you're making a call somewhere.
Suppliers, some suppliers. Yeah. So this is what and there are some very interesting folks who are, and I'll hopefully get them also on our Purple Book. I've been trying to, but I'm trying to first, also imbibe that knowledge to understand, hey, because I think this is a very intriguing problem and it's a nice problem to solve.
Yeah.
And this is besides all the other good stuff that's happening. I'm saying this is out of whack, and then comes the access, the whole access and governance and all that stuff. So
yeah.
I'll stop there. I know
it's a lot. I think we're gonna have a busy next year. So, well, I mean, Les, thank you very much for joining. I know you're super busy, and I appreciate you hanging on to the end there. You have a great holiday, and look forward to seeing you at a Purple Book community event in the new year. Maybe we'll bring you onto the Let's Talk AppSecOps podcast as well. It's a nice short form soapbox podcast. So yeah, I think we'll be able to riff nicely on that one. So take care.
Hey, listen, happy holidays, all you guys.
Happy holidays. Happy holidays.
Yeah, and thank you for having me. Bye.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think, we're getting close to wrapping up here. I think thank you, first of all, to absolutely everybody that joined. I'm actually just checking out our LinkedIn Live. Got some great, I'm getting some great feedback through LinkedIn here as well. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you to every one of our guest speakers. I know everybody's crazy busy, and just being able to jump in for a few minutes, we really, really appreciate it. So this is going to wrap season 1 of Let's Talk AppSecOps. Season 2 will be coming in January. I would be a little remiss if I didn't, ask you guys to go ahead and commit your vote to the DevOps Dozen Awards. These are currently going on. Voting's good through the end of the year. There are a few choice awards that I'd like to highlight. So ArmorCode is up for our AppSecOps platform for the best new DevOps tool or service provider. AppSecCon, which is a conference that we sponsored with the Purple Book community that Les and a couple of the others we spoke about. AppSecCon was going on in earlier this year, so that's actually up for the the best DevOps event of the year, and it was a fantastic event. By the way, all of those sessions are available as well, so Google that. And then the Purple Book themselves, so the community itself actually published a book, so that's actually up for the best DevOps book ebook of the year. And again, Purple Book community is all about the about security leaders for security leaders. We've had a few folks from that community join today. Great community. Recognize the community, recognize ArmorCode, go ahead and cast your votes. So that's pinned on our LinkedIn page, and you can see that we have our LinkedIn page up here as well with us live streaming. And then I think I'd also just like to say a big thank you to you, Luis. I love our time together, whether it's virtually or physically. This has been a great year for us. We've been working together for a little over a year now. And we've had a fantastic time. I'd also like to say a big thank you to Jeremy, who's our producer, who sits in the background every time we do these recordings and just laughs at Luis and I goofing everything up. So there we go. Jeremy's on screen. Thank you.
Producer Jeremy.
We really
thank you.
So, and thanks everybody for joining. This has been a lot of fun. I won't lie. We were a little bit nervous about this because it's live, but it was a lot of fun. So really appreciate it. We'll do it. I think we're going to be on the hook now to do one of these once a season. So stay tuned for the spring one.
Yeah,
winter,
spring.
right? So it's spring. All right. With that being said, happy holidays to everybody. Whatever you celebrate or don't, enjoy the weekend, enjoy your family, enjoy the time. And we look forward to seeing you next year on Let's Talk AppSecOps Season 2.
Deal. Have a good one.
All right. Later.